Greetings and salutations, JordanXlord with the Imperial Cultural Society. This ICS-approved program shall be a return to the wondrous world of Daggerheart, which, as I've continued to run, homebrew, and hopefully eventually play more of, today we're going to cover the theater kid of tabletop classes. And while I definitely have that theater kid energy, I unfortunately only did one play because I didn't like staying past school hours in school. And also it took away from my valuable World of Warcraft time. Oh, but where was I? Oh yes, finally, we get to start in order this time with the Bard. Now, let us close our eyes and enter a world far away, where we may meet again. But now hear this song about the dawn of the night. Let's sing the Bard's song. The history of the Bard class goes back even before the precursor to our hobby, wargaming, was even an idea in the minds of Prussian nobility who wanted some consequence-free practice for their war crimes. Bards date back to an ancient Celtic order of minstrel poets, whose primary function was to compose and sing verses, celebrate the achievements of chiefs and warriors, and were historians and keepers of lore, from traditions, theology, laws to current events. Due to the fact that the Celtic world was fucking massive, from pre-British Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Germany, France, to even parts of Spain, Italy, and Switzerland, they've all had a position for the keeper of oral tradition, since writing stuff down is for nerds. Bards lasted in Ireland until the mid-17th century and the early 18th century in Scotland. Unfortunately, both were lost when the British Empire attacked. Famous bards throughout history include the Welsh bard Taliesin, who may or may not still be among us and a part of the show Critical Role. The nickname for William Shakespeare, the Bard, and the band Blind Guardian. With a brief summary of the real-world history of the Bard done, let us delve into the history of it within tabletop games. Starting, of course, with many classes, it was introduced in Dungeons & Dragons, specifically since the very first edition, in issue 201 of the periodical known as the Strategic Review, which was in February of the year 1976. That was a long time ago. During first edition AD&D, or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, bards were not available as a class during character creation, and that you can only become a bard after meeting incredibly odd and specific instructions, such as either being a human or a half-elf. Sorry, non-humans, if you don't have any human in you can't be a bard. And with ability scores of 15 in strength, wisdom, dexterity, charisma, 12 in intelligence, and at least a 10 in constitution. And back in these days, I am more than certain that you had to roll the stats in order. So you had to be real lucky to even want to be a bard in the first place. But not only all of that, but you had to start the game as a fighter, reach level 5, but before level 8, then you have to change your class to Thief, which was the old name for Rogue. And then only after reaching level 5 as a Thief, and God's forbid, before you hit level 9, and the class you literally already spent half the game retraining into, then you have to do it again, but for druids this time. Absolutely wild. Just, how this hobby even get to exist beyond this point is insane. But in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, it finally became a core class that didn't require 2 years and a mastery in Irish history. This would eventually lead to it being a staple included in the 3rd edition of the Player's Handbook, and 3.5 in 3rd edition of D&D. This tradition will be broken during the infamous 4th edition of D&D, which was only included in the second player's handbook and not the original, during which it'd be included in other systems, such as the well-beloved Pathfinder, both 1st and 2nd edition, The Witcher RPG, Dungeon World, and Daggerheart. Technically also Draw Steel, where it is rebranded as the Troubadour. I am really only covering the tip of the metaphorical iceberg, and just with a brief delve into the storied history of the Bard class in tabletop role-playing games shows that even the British Empire could not quell humanity's desire to be a storyteller and poet. The tradition of the Bard still lives on, and arguably every time you meet the table, you're all becoming bards in your own way, continuing the tradition that has lasted since the 1st century. And with the history of the class done, let us move now to the mechanics within the Daggerheart system.
What does your human bard do? Active perception check. It's a natural 20. Let's fucking go.
With bards being best known as either service tops or power bottoms, known for being the most charismatic people around, storytellers, musicians, thespians, poets, and all the other people with degrees that are considered useless by society that prioritizes wealth and productivity over art in the humanities. No, I'm not at all bitter that I got myself in debt due to a creative writing degree that I couldn't even finish when I was doing my scholarly days on Earth. Regardless, as a bard, you are the life of the party. And with this being a cooperative hobby, a prized commodity and asset to have in any party, with the powers to inspire greatness in your allies, and look at your foes as they are Drake and you are Kendrick Lamar, and you're about to drop the sickest diss track has ever been seen in the realms. With the Bard class starting stats making sense within the logic of the system, which is starting 5 hit points and 10 starting evasion, while other classes like the Rogue or Ranger will have more evasions. What they don't have is the Codex domain. In accordance with the Homebrew kit, it is recommended to design classes with the Codex domain to have less health. Codex is currently the only domain with grimoires, which are inherently more powerful than other cards since they are multiple powers in a trench coat, posing as a single card. Speaking of domains, let us go ahead and talk about the Bard's domains of Grace and Codex. Grace is the domain of charisma, of wielding truths and lies to shift reality towards their whims due to the power of language. Codex is the domain of lore, of knowledge, and with knowledge being power, grants free reign over reality. You know, wizard shit. Like every class in Daggerheart, you have a hope feature, a reason to keep burning that hope given to you. In this case, it is make a scene. When you make a scene, not only will you be recorded on social media, but you can temporarily distract a target within close range, giving them a -2 penalty to their difficulty, meaning that you can make your foes easier to hit, manipulate, and girl boss. And honestly, just a fantastic use in fights when there's one main or incredibly dangerous foe that needs to be focused down. Your class feature, on the other hand, is the ability to rally your allies. Much like in many fantasy systems, bards have the ability to inspire their allies. In this case, once per session, you describe how you rally the party and give both yourself and everyone else in the party a rally die. This rally die starts at a D6 and can be spent to add to the result of an action roll, reaction roll, damage roll, or clear a number of stress equal to the result. At the end of the session, all unspent rally dice are cleared. So please, Bard players, hold your fellow players at gunpoint. Make them use it! At level 5, your rally die increases to a D8, which, hey, that's pretty neat. Now, let us rally together and go over the 2 official subclasses that disappoint your parents in different ways.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
wanted to turn your campaign into a musical, or otherwise play the classic music playing, song singing minstrel, then this is the subclass for you. Your spellcast trait is present, because the only difference between a spellcaster and an awesome spellcaster
presentation!
Foundational to being a troubadour is being a gifted performer, be it song, playing the dopest guitar solo, or interpretive dance. You can do the following once per rest. Relaxing song, using the power of lo-fi and other chill beats to rest to. You and all your allies within close range can clear a hit point, which is pretty neat, honestly. A tad weird that it can't reduce stress, because when I think of calming music, I don't typically think of my physical health as much. Like, if I was shot, I'm not gonna put on some lo-fi and wait for the wound to chill out, you know? It doesn't work that way. I've tried. Epic song! Using your amazing performance skills, you can make a target within close range temporarily vulnerable. Because I would struggle to focus on the battle if someone started freestyling dancing in front of me. Heartbreaking song. Because apparently nothing inspires hope more than the power of Schadenfreude. Which, if you don't know what that means, that's the German phrase for taking joy out of other people's misery. You can grant yourself and all allies within close range a hope. Honestly, outside of the fact that sad songs being what inspires hope, these are incredible, and I adore the fact that they give bards a bunch of different songs that they can play, sing, perform. It really leans into that power fantasy, and just kind of what I wanted in a bard in the first place. Eventually, when you reach the point of specializing in your craft, you gain the title of Maestro. As a Maestro, when you give a rally die to an ally, they can either gain a hope or clear a stress. Which, since you are giving all of your fellow party members a rally die, you're basically become a machine that turns spent hope and filled stress into available hope and cleared stress. No comments, that's just pretty awesome. But finally, when you become a master troubadour, famous across the realms, you ascend to be among the musical legends, your performances affecting the very zeitgeist of generations current and future. What do you get? What comes with being a virtuoso? You can perform each of your gifted performers' feature songs twice instead of once per long rest. Wow. Amazing. No, but seriously, while this is a relative snore fest of a final feature, the fact that you can do arguably the best part of this subclass more than once in a long rest it's pretty helpful. Honestly, as someone who enjoys Bard, this is the classic way to go, and it does its job incredibly well. Whoever designed this subclass cooked. When you were playing Baldur's Gate 3 and you saw Volo, did you think, man, I want to be like that guy, even though he is a wizard? Or would you like to write an inspiring sonnet for your local fire-breathing lizard? Then this is the subclass for you. Your spellcast trait is presence, because truly that is your essence. It rhymed, so it has to be true. Okay, I'll stop. When you begin writing your foundations down and publishing that first book, you gain the following features. Rousing speech. Once per long rest, you can give an inspiring speech. All allies within far range clear 2 stress, which fits well during high stress situations. I and other fellow English majors love giving inspiring speeches while we are barely held together via self-gaslighting and caffeine. Heart of the poet. After you make an action roll to impress, persuade, or offend someone, you can spend a hope to add a d4 to the roll. The fact that you can do this as many times to view as hope and meet the requirements is pretty crazy. I too feel less hopeful when I'm done with a social interaction, but I think that's because the gods nerfed me with a social anxiety buff. Otherwise, I would be too powerful. You finally make it big and become a specialized master of the written and spoken word. You become so eloquent that it actually gives you benefits. Those benefits allow you once per session. When you encourage an ally, you can do one of the following. Allow them to find a mundane object or tool they need, which I love giving mechanics to narrative plot holes that someone will make a video essay about. Help an ally without spending hope, which honestly, it's the least exciting of these options. But I can see it being used in niche situations, but otherwise... The last one, though, give them an additional downtime move during their next rest. Arguably the most powerful, since, although I suck at it, I know that the truest power is not friendship, but a good night's sleep. It can be used for either short or long rest, so it can either help in a lot of situations where people don't have enough downtime actions. Finally, you have mastered the art of being a wordsmith, and with that mastery comes everything you've ever wanted, an HBO show that becomes an instant success and cultural icon for at least 6 seasons before the showrunners destroy it because they want to do Star Wars instead. Yes, I'm still angry about Game of Thrones, but given the fact that said showrunners seem to have been banished to the Shadow Realm, justice was served. Oh, wait, where was I? Oh yeah, Bard. You gain the Epic Poetry feature, which allows you to black bag your Game Master and take over. Not only does your rally die become a D10, which makes my World of Darkness pilled brain very happy, but when you help an ally, you can narrate the moment as if you were writing the story of this epic moment in history. As you finish declaring dominance and banish the GM to the Brazil dimension, you can make the advantage die a D10 instead of a D6, which it's pretty awesome. Genuinely a cool feature. I mean, it kinda has to be since you basically take over as the Game Master after that point. But hey, great mastery features come with great responsibility. Now, onto my favorite parts of the Daggerheart system, homebrewing! We shall be offering to our viewers an official Imperial Cultural Society subclass for bards, inspired by yours truly.
General, I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I am very well acquainted to with matters mathematical. I understand equations both the simple and quadratical. About binomial theorems, I'm teeming with a lot of news.
Honestly, in the 15 years of tabletop gaming that I have under my belt, Daggerheart has been one of the easiest systems to homebrew. When I was but a young child, I grew up loving card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! This scratches that same itch. Where was I? Oh yeah, Bards! Bard subclass, okay. Commander! That's me! And now you too can become a commander. Inspire your comrades to greatness. I recently ran a campaign using the 5 banners burning campaign frame. One of my players, who was one of my best friends, I adore with all of my heart, even though they were created in a lab by the US government to destroy me. He played a wordsmith bard, re-flavored as a general, and only inspired their troops, but was able to turn enemies into begrudging admirers and friends. While that campaign had ended, I'd always loved the idea of taking the gameplay role of a bard as a force amplifier for a party of a more martial tendency. I don't know who Tylenol is, but here's what years of an obsession of military history had inspired. When you begin your foundation of your new military career, you acquire the following perks. I wanted to experiment with mixing domains that wouldn't be horribly broken. So ultimately, I took a page from the School of Knowledge Wizard and made it so you get a card from either Bone or Blade, since I felt those really leaned into the martial and tactical side of the subclass. Captain is inspired by the Wordsmith ability to grant a bonus, as I wanted to play around with the idea of a character that can help allies more, and make it so your first time per rest, it can be done without a hope tax. very much a reservation of resources for when it's needed. Every battle teaches a lesson, and as a more specialized commander, you get to draw an additional card from the martial domains of Bone or Blade. So you're at 2 cards from domains that bards do not normally get access to. And you gain a new way to do tag team roles, which, as a fascinating way to handle, well, tag teams, basically wanted to give your rally die an additional use and make it so if the roll succeeds, instead of gaining a hope, you regain the rally die. Thankfully, you can only initiate a tag team roll once per session. Otherwise, this would be insane. Finally, at the peak of military excellence, even Sun Tzu seeks out your tactical advice. You become a legendary commander, allowing you to draw your 3rd and final domain card from Bone or Blade. You can also use the commander feature 3 times instead of once. I wanted to make it so at the end you can last for even extended battles, able to help your allies, and finally another fun way to use your rally die to be able to help restore armor, which can be a great way to really endear yourself to the party's guardian when they can get a free D6 armor slots once per session. Now with mechanics done, let us move over to what concepts at a bard in the officially released campaign frames. I'm so sorry, hope and fear. I'm so excited for you, but you're not out yet, and I do not want to do a total of 20 concepts yet. 12 is enough. With this campaign frame based on Princess Mononoke, The Legend of Zelda, The Dark Crystal, and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, you must deal with r/atheism invading a magical forest filled with nature spirit-like gods. And also there's a weird evil serpent disease. Play a commander bard who has training due to involvement in the Haven army. However, the invasion of Fainwick broke their heart, and now they turn to adventuring to make up for the sins of their past. Or play a Troubadour bard who is inspired to become a musician after hearing an otherworldly song from a mystical songbird. Now that songbird is slowly dying to the serpent sickness, and you are out there seeking a cure in order to save their life because they were your muse, and you don't want that song to vanish forever.
His Grace summons me to King's Landing. I'll go to King's Landing. But not alone. Call the banners.
With this campaign frame based on a Song of Ice and Fire, with hopefully less incest, Eberron rising from the last war, Court of Blades, and Dragon Age Inquisition, you are living in the aftermath of a brutal and long war. That while peace was achieved, it is fragile, and there are many seeking to raise the banners to battle once again. Play a wordsmith bard who's a propagandist for their nation, using both the written and spoken word to capture the hearts of the citizens and enemies alike. You're with the party because either they share in your nation's goal, or because in a recent ploy, you were made the scapegoat and you must flee. Play a Troubadour bard from Armada who specializes in sea shanties, one that travels ship to ship to learn new shanties, and with the world ending, the shanties of old are starting to grow dim, and new ones need to be made so they can be told.
We can make bread!
Daddy!
Wait, give it to me! Come on! I can make bread with it! Bread! 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 Bread!
In this cozy campaign frame inspired by Delicious and Dungeon, or Dungeon Meshi if you think the translated name is lame, all of the cooking scenes from Monster Hunter World in One Piece, you play as villagers from Elmore, who are tasked with delving into the Plover Caves to reignite the magical lure that protects your home and eat everything that comes in your path. Play a wordsmith bard who's actually a local author that publishes cooking books, with recent delves into the Plover Caves causing rumors to sprout of unseen ingredients. They decide to pack their books and begin their own culinary adventure. Play a commander bard who is the second in command of the village militia. They volunteered to make sure the next group of explorers come back alive.
Arise, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The loathsome dung eater.
In this dark fantasy campaign frame, inspired by such hopeful and optimistic worlds like Dark Souls, Berserk, and Blasphemous, you live as one of the enduring, those left behind by the gods, who fled after an event known as the Apotheosis, forced to survive in a world with a dangerous soul blight known as the Umbra. Play as a Troubadour bard who is an Aether Weaver that manifests the Aether Weave that flows through reality into different frequencies that mortals can only comprehend as music. With such a dangerous muse, a life of comfort is denied to them. Or play a Wordsmith bard who's a smuggler of relics and ancient lore from the Halcyon domain, connected with various small cults that dwell in the ruins of places of higher learning from the old world. However, with connections like these, enemies can be around every corner.
Fuck. That's a laser raptor. I thought they went extinct thousands of years ago. What year is this?
It's the Viking Age.
That explains the laser raptor.
In this post-apocalyptic campaign frame, where magic is technology left behind by a long-fallen civilization, similar to universes like Horizon Zero Dawn, Mortal Engines, Mad Max Fury Road, and Slug Blaster, you play as living within the Echo Vale, surrounded by the autonomous machines known as remnants, with the peaceful life you once knew now at risk as a malicious computer virus spreads, causing once peaceful machines to turn violent. Play a commander bard who, instead of being part of a military, were the head scrapper of a small tight-knit remnant scrapping guild. Maybe they lost their guild when the Remnants Fury technovirus started affecting the local remnants. Or perhaps they became an adventurer in order to find a cure in order to make sure that never happens. Or you could play a Wordsmith bard who, instead of written poems, is actually a programmer who uses code. With your deep knowledge of the data wells and ability to read the language of the echoes, they're a prized commodity in any group.
Song, old friend? No, I ain't gonna sing it. Go. Kill the man outside Grackle. Dead on the plain. But he wasn't a man. And he sure wasn't slain. Now,
In this rootin' tootin' gunslinger western campaign frame where technology is powered from the broken shards of forgotten gods, inspired by media like Shadow of the Colossus, Red Dead Redemption, and Deadlands, you assemble to the wanted poster of Mayor Logan Hardley with the task of dispatching these giant forces of nature for the promise of fully processed essentia. Will you die trying, or will you live to tell the tale? Play a Troubadour bard who uses instruments powered by essentia, perhaps an inventor or patron to an inventor that fell in hard times. The call of adventure began when your original instrument was destroyed, when the first Doom's influence was strong enough to begin pushing towards freedom. Now they travel to stop it before an event like that could ever happen again. Play a Wordsmith bard who's a traveling snake oil salesman, except for the fact that their ointments and tinctures actually work. However, the further they got from the Godfall Mountains, the less they work and the quicker they spoiled. Already on the road and with numerous gambling debts and enemies after them, finding companionship of an adventuring party would be a great help in keeping their heads still on their shoulders. Now, with these concepts done, let us end this official Imperial Cultural Society broadcast with our final thoughts. With this bard song coming to a close, I feel the growing desire to play this class, which, at this current time, I will have to play vicariously through my players So at the time of recording, many of my games are either on pause or I'm the one running it. Bards are just cool, not only because their charisma of the class, but their history only paints a picture that the one thing that all human civilizations share is the desire to tell stories. Be it in early century Ireland to the modern day, the bard's song still rings true in all of our hearts. From what I've seen of bards in Daggerheart, they burn through hope like a certain cabal of spellcasters. From the coast, burn through all of their community's goodwill. Yet the amount of support they can provide to a game and their own ability to turn social situations on their head only proves why they're such a beloved class. While many see the stereotypes of the horny bard, and it took every fiber of my being to keep those jokes to a minimum because I hate presenting any class in such a limited capacity. So I do want to say, and I have a question for you all. What has been your experience with the bard class? Do you have any additional ideas to add to the ones above? I would love to hear your stories. Now, before it's pointed out that there wasn't a single song in this entire video, all I have to say is, thank you for watching, and please remember, stay safe and stay glorious.